All right, guys. Hope you're doing well. You should be able to see my screen. We are going to go over the markets and what we're watching into this week. I am traveling this week, and so I'm getting out this video early versus doing the live watches class. So if you guys have questions, just message me in the chat, and I can discuss the setups in detail with you there if you have specific ones. Okay. So starting with SPY, nothing seems to be wrong here. We're still trading higher on with volume and daily time frame. We continue to hold the 5 and 9 EMA. So as long as we hold that, it doesn't seem like we have any issues so far. The weekly momentum, I think, will also be pretty key. You can see back through here when we lost momentum here on the weekly time frame, we had a high volume sell bar. We kind of traded sideways, made a new high, and then ultimately took that downturn. So we always got to be aware of, okay, the momentum on the higher time frames and also what moving averages are we holding? Well, you can see here the 5 EMA has held over and over and over again. So that will be a key one to watch going into this week. Okay. Just pay attention to that and continue to trade the trend as long as it holds up. Right now, we're holding the 9 and 5 on the daily. Same thing for the Qs. I think we're going to see some more choppy to sideways action, and then to build up the next explosive move. But for now, we're just continuing to trend up off that daily squeeze and buy signals that fired off there. Okay, so shorter term, you can look and watch those 9 and 5 EMAs on the daily time frames for the Nasdaq and the S&P, and then like a little bit longer term view, keep an eye on the momentum on the squeeze for SPY. So you can see here we had this downside or QQQ, either one, SPY, QQQ, doesn't matter. And then you can see here how the momentum has shifted. When it shifted here, we saw a pretty nice move up. When we saw it shift here, we saw a nice move down. So it's definitely pretty important to pay attention to when we have these momentum shifts because it leads to at least a few bars of changing price action. Okay. So just keep an eye on that. Those are two different gauges you can watch that are not uh, per se discretionary. They are more, okay, it broke the daily 9 and 5. So that's kind of a bearish sign, or at least for a shorter term pullback. Or, okay, hey, the moving averages have shifted, or sorry, the momentum has shifted on the daily time frame, okay, or weekly time frame. Let's pay attention to that. I completely misspoke on a good piece of that, so let me say it again. You're looking at SPY, you're looking at QQQ. Keep an eye on the 9 and the 5 EMAs on the daily time frame. Okay. And then keep an eye on the 5 EMA on the weekly time frame. And then keep an eye on that momentum on the squeeze on the weekly. Okay. So just do that and you should be fine. The Dow weekly squeeze firing off. A lot of these banks are looking good here. So JPM looks good here. Daily squeeze just starting to form. GS looking good here. No daily squeeze. We've got a 4 hour. We've got some 4 hour buy signals. This one looks strong. I like the chart. Can take a look at like how's BAC look. Yep, BAC is looking pretty good. Just starting to form a daily squeeze, bouncing right off the 50 on some volume. So that's always a good sign. Weekly still looks intact. We can check out a few more banks. Schwab, this one looks good. Uh, Hitting new all-time highs, but there's nothing to do here. The entry was back in here in these buy signals. Okay, so the Dow looks still looks good to make a new all-time high because it has yet to do that. So we definitely want to keep an eye on this because it's probably going to play some catch up, especially with these banks looking good as well. So this one's trading sideways. One thing to notice how we're making lower highs here, but then the Qs were making higher highs and trading sideways. See the difference in consolidations. So the strength is definitely showing up in tech. Okay. So keep that in mind. We also have some major earnings coming out this week, which brings me to my next point. The few charts that look really good here. So we do have Google earnings coming out this week. We took this trade. not last week, but the week before, bought in somewhere right around here off the daily signals and caught this nice move up to the upside. And we trimmed half on Tuesday for 10% gain on GGLL. And so that was a nice base hit. And we're going to hold the rest into earnings. I will sell it before earnings actually hits, but I'm going to hold it into that day of earnings to see what kind of happens from there. And then same story for Tesla. I think this one you could play Friday options and look for some sort of run in earnings. I don't necessarily know if I would hold Friday options into earnings. That's kind of a lotto type thing. But if you hold it the 3 days into earnings where we have earnings after hours on Wednesday, I think that's a pretty solid setup. You can see daily, 2 day, 3 day, weekly buys on this, score 40. Looks solid, and we're getting tight. Price is getting tight. I talked about this one last week. Great setup here, and I think we could really see a nice move. I think the move will just be starting over three when we get above 350. So, like, um, if we gap up and we're near 350, don't get um, upset like you missed the move. I personally think the move will be just starting at 350, and right here is a great place to pick it up. In a weekly close below the 21 EMA on the weekly time frame, that's a pretty solid stop because you can see here after this candle here, when we reclaimed, we tried to drop below it here. We tried to drop below it here. We gapped down and even came back and reclaimed it there. So I do, and we did it on high volume. So I think Tesla is one of the better looking setups going into this week. Um, Baba. So actually, let's start with KWeb. So KWeb, we bought this one here on this week, and we actually are up about 130%, something like that, on our October calls. I'm looking for us to break out into new 52-week highs, or sorry, yeah, new 52-week highs, and this resistance here around 38. So I'm looking for us to at least break out to there. And I think this is the beginning of a stage two advance. So early stage two, breaking out of stage one. I think this is a pretty solid chart looking for the breakout. And I think the pattern looks pretty similar to here. You can see here, sideways chop. We had some weekly buy signals. Boom. We had a huge move from 46 to 104. Here, I'm looking for maybe something similar. We're just starting the breakout, so I'm kind of all over these names. And one of my favorite ones right now that has is lagging a little bit, but looks really great. Same thing, stage two. I think we're breaking out of stage one and moving into stage two is Baba. And a great stop loss you can use is that weekly 50. It's holding perfectly, and you can see we've got a lot of confluence here around. Um, the weekly 200 and weekly 50. And I think this one, we're going to see a move at least into 150, in my opinion. And I think we're going to start a new uptrend here. And China is going to go on a run. So another one that I like is LI. We've already been in this, but nice trade to the upside. Big volume breakout on the daily time frame off of some news. But this one looks great as well. But Baba is definitely going to be my primary focus. So, two setups I'm going to give you that really have my focus going into this week is Baba and Tesla. So, once we get earnings out of the way for Tesla, I'm going to be more aggressive on trying to enter that. As long as we don't have a 20%, 40% gap up, then we should be okay to enter. And then Baba, I think this one looks great. We do have earnings coming up in August, but we've got about a month before that happens. So, we can get a little more aggressive playing this one to the upside. And I think we could see a run into 135 and then maybe 150 before earnings. I don't know. That's kind of a stretch, but I think we could see a decent upside move into the earnings report after this high volume buying candle. And you can see here, high volume here on the buying on this dip, and then high volume here on the recovery off the 50. So any as long as we hold above the 50 SMA or 50 EMA on the weekly, we should be good to go. And this could be a really, really huge move where we see a stage one move into a stage two. And this is the last time we had like a stage one, and then there's your stage two. So definitely want to keep an eye on this one. But those are the two main setups I'm paying attention to in this week. Hope this helps, and thank you guys for watching. And if you're missing our signals, we're still in XRP. We're up about 50 or 60% on this one. We bought right in here. K-Web, we bought this one a couple weeks ago. We're up 135% right now. Um, and then I told you about Google. Yeah, we've had some great swing trades and they're low maintenance. We get in, we hold them for a couple weeks, and we've seen some really nice moves. So, if you're not in the signals chat, definitely take advantage of that. You get a free week to check it out, see some of the signals we've done in the past, give you a good idea, good flavor of what we're doing, and kind of tackle these ideas that we're already in or ones that I'm seeing coming up. So, all right, I hope this helps. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.